no surprise there in terms of all the key themes which were there. And of course, the big overall theme in terms of where we are in the new world order, from rules-based order to deal-based order. So, that was a big discussion topic, as you can appreciate, throughout the Davos interactions. And then finally, I just want to share with you one data point. A group which comes together, which is hosted by the fund and by WEF, and there are about 55 people who are thought leaders, who are governors, ex-finance ministers, current finance ministers, and so I went to that group to have discussions there, and I thought it was a very interesting interaction, because one of the data points which came out of there was in 24, when this group came together, and from what I could gather, because it's the first time I was there in my current capacity, that almost there's about 10 to 15% turnover. Otherwise, about 80–85% of the people are the same. So seemingly last year in 24, this group, when they were asked to raise their hands and asked whether 24 is going to be a better year than 23, or worse, or the same. So seemingly last year, about 50% of the people there said 24 for the world overall is going to be a better year compared to 23. This year, although there were some very strong voices in minority, about 80% plus people said 25 is going to be a better year for the world compared to 24. And I thought it was, with all the volatility which is going on in the macro environment, but I do think people also felt, and that's my assessment in terms of what I heard, that how geopolitics to a certain extent is going to go into calmer waters compared to where we have been in 24. So maybe that's a driving factor, and other things. But I just want to share that, because just like creme de la creme of the corporate world is here, is the creme de la creme. और डॉक्टर ईशर साहब, आप तो वहाँ बहुत जाते रहे होंगे, तो this is creme de la creme, people who are not only thought leaders but movers and shakers of the world economy. So that's Davos. I think with respect to the macro situation, I had the distinct privilege and honor of being hosted by BBC and the general membership about a month back, so I'm not going to go back and mention everything that was talked about there in terms of our macroeconomic stability and all the factors, but a couple of things which were mentioned by the State Bank yesterday after the Monetary Policy Committee. I think the policy rate coming down, the inflationary expectations certainly for January, and therefore further reduction in policy rates, although it's very much the domain of the central bank. But main jo dekhta hu, I look at KIBOR, because that's what matters for you. It's not the policy rate, it's KIBOR. And if KIBOR is now around 11% or thereabouts, and if it's coming down, that's where everyone sort of borrows across consumer and industrial segments, etc. That's one piece. Another piece which was also shared yesterday of us getting to $13 billion of FX reserves, that will essentially take us to almost sort of 3 months of import cover. And I do think that's a very important milestone that we have, because if all goes well, this is a critical trigger for the economy and the sovereign being re-rated to a single B category. There are many other aspects which, of course, the rating agencies consider, but I do think this is one of the critical factors, and we are moving in that direction on the back of very strong remittance flows, very strong sort of IT export services, and the diversification of exports, etc. The last thing I just want to mention is that yesterday we received and hosted the senior leadership of Pakistan Business Council with respect to the taxation and the taxation measures, because what we have done, and I mentioned it in December when I was at BBC, and the important thing is actions have to speak louder than the intentions or whatever, right? So I said we will prepone the budget discussion because, as I mentioned at that time, I keep on mentioning that what I saw from the outside, and now you can say within the government, we have a broken budget process, because all of you, including all the forums which come in, we have a lot of time and respect for them, but in the April-May timeframe, you spend a lot of time and effort to make your proposals. You spend a lot of time here. We spend a lot of time listening to you. Then when the budget time comes, we do what we need to do in terms of making the math work. And then we have a couple of other months after that in terms of the appeal processes. जो आप में बहुत लोग अमीर हैं वो अखबारों में छापते हैं, जो ज़्यादा नहीं हैं वो सोशल मीडिया पे करते हैं. But another sort of 2 months of appeals and the appeal process. So about 4 months, the entire country comes to a standstill. For what? Because that's not productive. That's not productive. So abhi, what we did was, and what I mentioned to you, in the first week of January, we got the budget process going. And we requested all the government departments to come back to us with their expenditure views and where they are and what they think they are going to be spending or what they need in the next fiscal year. We have gone to all the forums, including PBC, all the associations, all the chambers, asking for their inputs by early Feb, and also the tariff board, including the government inputs, etc. Because we are now in a medium-term program. We are in a 3-month program, a 3-year program. My sitting here as the IMF rep here, so we know where we are, what we have committed, and we are going to stay firm with those commitments. So we also know what you said in the last budget, and also in other interactions that we have had with all of you and various associations. So my thought process was that what you are going to tell us now versus April, May, maybe there is going to be a 5 to 10% differential. Maybe, because things evolve and all that. But we might as well get all of that input now. And during February, we are going to get into those consultations. I mean, of course, you are here. You made the presentation yesterday. I will be going to various chambers along with the Minister of State and FBR colleagues to various chambers during February, because one thing I also had said, and therefore, आप आ गए हैं इस्लामाबाद तो आप आ गए हैं इस्लामाबाद. But I always used to say, in our neighboring country, when the budget comes, the Mumbai, Delhi नहीं जाता, Delhi, Mumbai आती है. So that is the thought process which I want to ensure that we go to the chambers, we listen to them, and I've been to Sialkot chamber, I've been to other chambers, and we will do that during the month of February, inshallah, so that by the time we come to March or April, we can come back to you, because that is my intention. We can come back to you with what we can do and what we cannot do, because we are in a fund program, we have made commitments, and therefore few things might have to be phased in or phased out. Let's put it that way. And it's important that we are upfront with you in those discussions rather than you hearing it during the budget speech, right? Because, and therefore it'll save you a lot of time and effort. It'll save you a lot of anguish later on. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that we get the economy moving as we have, gone for stabilization. But I again want to repeat what I said earlier. There is no automatic switch from stabilization to growth. And we need to be very clear that we fundamentally change the DNA of the economy, that we do not get into trouble the moment we put foot on the pedal and we get into a balance of payment problem and we go running back to the fund at that point in time, because that boom and bust cycle is in our control. And therefore, I always talk about the fund program actually being the Pakistan program, whether it's taxation, whether it's energy, whether it's SOEs, whether it's privatization, whether it's public finance. We need to do it for our own country. The fund and other multilateral institutions are there to help, support, assist, fund us as required. So that's one part of it. The other part of it, which I shared with the leadership of PBC, I just again want to say कि कुछ हम tactical चीज़ें कर रहे हैं, कुछ हम structural चीज़ें कर रहे हैं. So moving the policy out of FBR and putting it under the finance ministry so that they can focus on collections, I do think is going to again be a fundamentally important thing to do, ताकि ये जो discussion होती है कि हर साल आके आप कोई ना कोई चीज़ change कर देते हैं, when the investors, whether they're local investors or foreign investors, they need not only a policy framework, but they need policy continuity, including in the taxation regime. So that is now in implementation, and so that's the second thing I want to mention. The third thing I want to mention, and then I'll close so that we can get into sort of Q&A, is क्योंकि in any transformation is people, process, technology. So while what we are doing on the technology side is fine, the people side are also the actions being taken. The process part of it is very important. So एक चीज़ जिस पे हम काम कर रहे हैं, because it keeps on coming back to the salaried class and what and how we can not only do what we need to do in terms of rationalization, that in turn is dependent all other segments stepping up and contributing to the economy, which has been a missing link for decades. But जो simplification में हम कर सकते हैं, जहाँ 70-80% लोग जो हैं salaried class के, उनको ना super tax का issue है, ना CVT का issue है, ना कोई और issue है. वो तो उनका they earn a salary and their tax is deducted at source. So for them, we want to simplify the form in a way that by the time we come to the September time frame or August time frame, कि जब सब लोगों ने अपना tax भरना है, so nirvana would be that none of sort of the 60-70%, if 80% of the salaried class don't have to go to their tax advisors and they don't have to get to their tax lawyers. They do जो B filer कर रहा है, वो हम क्यों नहीं कर सकते हैं in the FBR? There's no reason why we can't simplify that. Now, that's going to make life tough for the tax advisors and tax lawyers. But as far as I'm concerned, we want to make life simpler for the salaried class in Pakistan, or a dominant part of the salaried class in Pakistan. So that you get onto your screens, you get onto a form, a simple form, you submit. If there's an issue, we'll come back to you. Otherwise, you are done. And most of the countries, which are sort of advanced or not very advanced, they are all pursuing this, they are all doing it, and I think it's the right thing to do in terms of process simplification, and there are many other things that we need to do. But we also have to make sure that we have some quick wins. We do what we need to do in short term, medium term, long term. So this is just one other thing I just wanted to mention in addition to a very structural thing which we are doing with respect to sort of the policy unit coming into the finance division. With that, I'm going to stop here so that we can get into some Q&A. Thank you. यार ये अली खजर साहब इनको सब पहले
खजाना सेनेटर मोहम्मद औरंगजेब का इस्लामाबाद में तकरीब से खिताब। मुल्क की मईशत के हवाले से उन्होंने कहा कि मुल्क की मईशत दुरुस्त समत में गामजन है। तमाम आशारिये रुझान जाहिर कर रहे हैं। अपने डेवोस के दौरे के हवाले से भी उन्होंने बात की कि दौरा बहुत मुस्बत रहा, तामीरी गुफ्तगू की गई और 2023 की निस्बत रवां साल में मईशत मुस्तहकम हुई। पॉलिसी रेट में कमी से सरमायाकारों का एतमाद मजीद बढ़ेगा। वफाकी वजीर खजाना सेनेटर मोहम्मद औरंगजेब तकरीब से खिताब कर रहे